I was sipping my morning coffee in my Manhattan apartment when my phone buzzed with a group text from my family. I almost didn't look. Family group chats were a minefield, mostly filled with my sister Amanda's excitement about her upcoming wedding. But this time, a single line made me pause. We finally booked the venue. Can't believe I get to say I do in the most gorgeous place in the city. A picture followed: white marble staircases, chandeliers dripping with crystal light, polished oak dance floors. My heart gave a strange jolt, not because of the beauty of the place. No, because I owned it. The irony wasn't lost on me. Years ago, Amanda had stood in front of our relatives, laughing at my little vineyard wedding outside Boston, calling it quaint in that condescending tone she'd perfected. She had mocked me, saying it looked more like a backyard barbecue than a wedding. I'd smiled through it then, swallowing the hurt, the sting pressing hard in my chest. But things had changed. I wasn't the timid younger sister anymore. No one in that chat knew the truth, that my name was quietly written in the deed to the very hall Amanda was bragging about. I leaned back, silk blouse soft against my skin, city skyline gleaming through my floor-to-ceiling windows. My fingers traced the rim of my coffee mug as I reread her message. My lips curled into a small, private smile. She had no idea. I still remember the way Amanda's laughter carried across the room the night I told my family about my wedding plans. It was 10 years ago, in my parents' suburban living room in Connecticut. I was nervous, hands clutching the edge of my cardigan, explaining how Daniel and I had chosen a vineyard outside Boston for our ceremony. It wasn't grand, it wasn't expensive, but it felt right for us. Intimate, romantic, surrounded by rows of grapevines glowing under soft lanterns. Amanda's nose crinkled before I even finished my sentence. A vineyard, she repeated, like the word itself was a joke. So, basically a glorified backyard barbecue? The room erupted in polite chuckles. My cheeks burned hot, but Amanda wasn't done. You know, Emily, weddings are supposed to be memorable. Don't you want something, I don't know, elegant? You'll look back and regret being so cheap. Cheap. That word hit me like a slap. I pressed my nails into my palms, forcing a smile. My throat tightened as I tried to laugh it off, but inside, my chest ached. I wanted to tell her it wasn't about chandeliers or marble floors. It was about love, about starting a life. But the words tangled in my throat. Later that night, I slipped out onto the porch to breathe. That's when I felt a hand on my shoulder. My grandmother, Evelyn, stepped beside me. She had always been my quiet anchor, the only one who seemed to see through Amanda's shine and my forced smiles. She pressed something small and cool into my palm, a silver locket. Inside was a tiny picture of her and my grandfather on their wedding day, standing in front of a modest church, grinning like two kids who had nothing but each other. "Don't let her laughter decide your worth, darling," she whispered, her voice steady. "Halls lose their shine, flowers wilt, but love and grit, those carry you further than any chandelier." I nodded, fighting back tears. Her words settled deep in my chest, a quiet promise. The vineyard wedding happened just the way Daniel and I wanted. It was simple, yes. No glittering ballrooms, no marble staircases. But when the sun set behind the vines and we danced under the open sky, I felt rich in every way that mattered. Still, Amanda's words lingered. Cheap. Forgettable. Less than. And maybe that's when the seed was planted inside me, the vow that one day I'd never again stand small in her shadow. Life after my vineyard wedding wasn't easy. Daniel and I started out in a tiny apartment with more bills than income, more dreams than resources. He was working late nights at a law firm, and I found myself searching for something more than just part-time office work. Something of my own. That word, cheap, kept echoing in my head. Amanda's mocking tone replayed whenever I struggled to pay a bill or walked past a glittering storefront. It burned, but it also fueled me. I didn't want wealth to prove her wrong. I wanted freedom to never feel small again. It started with something simple: real estate. I'd always had an eye for detail, for spotting the potential in places others dismissed. While friends were scrolling through fashion catalogs, I was scrolling through listings of foreclosed homes and rundown venues. I studied late into the night, my laptop glowing in the dark while Daniel slept. Contracts, financing, property law, it was overwhelming but exhilarating. One day, I stumbled into a seminar on property investment led by a woman named Caroline Hughes. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and confident, with a calm authority that silenced any room. Something about her reminded me of my grandmother, steady, no nonsense, but encouraging. After the seminar, I introduced myself, half nervous, half hopeful. To my surprise, she invited me for coffee the next week. That meeting changed everything. Caroline became my mentor, guiding me through the labyrinth of negotiations, bank loans, and the art of patience. Real wealth isn't built fast, Emily, she told me, sipping her cappuccino. It's built smart. Property isn't just about buildings, it's about timing, vision, and courage. And so I began. My first win wasn't glamorous. It was a shabby duplex in Newark that I managed to renovate and rent out. The profit was small, but it was proof that I could do this. That I wasn't just Amanda's quieter sister, or the girl who settled for cheap. The years blurred into a rhythm of grinding and growing. Late nights became normal. I learned to read the fine print, to outnegotiate men who underestimated me, to walk into boardrooms in heels that clicked against polished floors, even when my knees shook beneath me. Each success was quiet. I didn't post about it on social media. When my family asked, I spoke modestly, always downplaying my achievements. They still thought of me as the simple one, the one who lived comfortably enough. And that was fine. It was easier that way, because behind the curtain, the truth was bigger than they could imagine. The duplex turned into two more, then into a small commercial property. By the time I was in my mid-30s, I had acquired event spaces, banquet halls, and eventually one of the most coveted wedding venues in New York City, the same one Amanda would one day unknowingly brag about. I kept the locket my grandmother gave me close through it all. Whenever I doubted myself, whenever exhaustion weighed heavy, I would open it, staring at that tiny black and white photo. Their smiles reminded me that wealth wasn't the goal, strength was. Freedom was. And I was building it brick by brick. By the time Amanda's engagement announcement arrived, my empire was thriving, and yet, no one in my family knew. Not Amanda. Not even Daniel's side. I liked it that way, because there's a certain power in silence. The night of Amanda's engagement dinner was like stepping into one of those glossy bridal magazines she worshipped. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, crystal glasses clinking against polished silverware, a string quartet playing softly in the corner. Everyone was dressed to impress, and of course, Amanda was at the center, glowing in a designer dress, ring catching the light every time she raised her glass. I stood near the back, quietly observing. A silk navy gown hugged my figure, subtle but elegant. I'd chosen it carefully, not too loud, but not forgettable either. My hair was pinned in a smooth chignon, pearls brushing my collarbone. I didn't need to compete. I was there to watch. Amanda's laughter rang across the room as she waved her manicured hand toward the group of bridesmaids surrounding her. And just wait until you all see the venue, she gushed. It's breathtaking. I honestly can't believe we got it. I mean, it's practically the place in New York. Every girl dreams of it. A chorus of squeals and admiration followed. I sipped my champagne, the bubbles sharp against my tongue. My heart beat steady, almost too calm, like my body already knew what was about to happen. When the room settled, Amanda's fiancé, Ryan, raised his glass. To Amanda, he said, smiling at her. And to the most beautiful future together, in the most perfect venue. That was my cue. I stepped forward, my heels tapping lightly against the marble floor, the sound slicing through the chatter. A hush fell as people turned to look at me. Amanda's eyes flicked toward me, narrowing with that familiar suspicion, the kind she reserved for moments when I dared to take attention away from her. I smiled softly, my voice calm. The venue, I said, letting the words linger. Yes, that really is something special, isn't it? Amanda tilted her head, a hint of annoyance in her expression. You've seen it? Oh, Emily, that's right. You must have visited before they booked it out. Isn't it incredible? I let the silence stretch for just a beat too long, then nodded. I have seen it. Many times. My gaze swept over the crowd, watching their curiosity sharpen. In fact, I know every inch of it. Every chandelier, every marble tile, every polished oak beam. Amanda frowned, confused. What are you talking about? I took one graceful step closer. Because, Amanda, I paused, savoring the moment. The venue you've been bragging about belongs to me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a fork. Even the quartet faltered, the music stuttering to an awkward halt. Amanda's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Her face drained of color. That's not funny, she stammered. You can't. It's true. I interrupted gently, my voice steady but firm. I purchased it 2 years ago. The contracts, the licensing, the renovations, it's all under my company. The venue is mine. The silence was thick enough to choke on. My parents exchanged bewildered glances. Ryan looked like he'd just swallowed glass. Amanda's painted lips trembled as she searched for response. You, she whispered, disbelief dripping from the word. You own it. Yes, I said simply. I reached into my clutch and pulled out a sleek black business card, holding it between 2 fingers. Emily Carter Properties. Perhaps you've heard of it. The card gleamed under the chandelier light as I placed it on the table nearest to Amanda. She didn't pick it up. She just stared, as if the letters might burn her. The room buzzed with murmurs now, shock, admiration, even awe. My cousin whispered something about secret millionaire. My aunt's jaw practically hit the floor. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I just stood there, tall, calm, unshaken. My grandmother's locket pressed warm against my chest beneath the silk fabric, grounding me. Amanda blinked hard, her voice cracking. Why wouldn't you tell anyone? Because I didn't need to, I said softly. Success isn't always about showing off, Amanda. Sometimes it's about building something strong and lasting, quietly, patiently, until the right moment comes to let it speak for itself. And in that silent ballroom, surrounded by chandeliers she once believed defined elegance, I finally had my moment. The silence stretched so long it became deafening. Amanda's perfectly rehearsed poise was crumbling, piece by piece, right in front of everyone. Her mascaraed eyes darted around, searching for support, but the crowd wasn't on her side anymore. They were watching me. I placed my champagne glass on the table with deliberate calm. Now, I said softly, my voice carrying just enough authority to draw every ear. The question is, what happens next? Amanda swallowed hard. Emily, please. This isn't fair. It's my wedding. Yes, I cut in gently. And years ago, Amanda, when it was my wedding, you mocked the very idea of it. You laughed at my choices, called me cheap, made me feel small in front of everyone. I swallowed it then. But tonight, things are different. Her face crumpled, but I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The power shift was already complete. I stepped closer, lowering my tone just enough so it felt intimate, though the whole room strained to hear. You can still have the venue. I won't take that away from you. But if you want to walk down that aisle in my hall, there are conditions. Gasps rippled again. Amanda's breath hitched. See conditions? Yes. I kept my expression calm, compassionate but firm. First, you acknowledge the harm you've caused. No more laughing at people's dreams, Amanda. Not mine. Not anyone's. Your words carry weight, and they've left scars. Tonight, you need to admit that. Her lips pressed together, trembling. Second, I continued, you respect this marriage you're about to enter. Marriage isn't about marble and chandeliers. It's about grace, forgiveness, resilience. If you can't grasp that, no venue in the world will save it. Ryan shifted awkwardly beside her, his hand tightening around his glass. I didn't look at him. I kept my focus on Amanda. And third, I said, pausing deliberately, you learn to stop competing. Life isn't a scoreboard, Amanda. Not everything is about who shines brighter. Sometimes it's about lifting others up instead of tearing them down. Amanda's eyes brimmed with tears, her carefully painted facade slipping away. For the first time in years, she looked human, vulnerable. The room was hushed, waiting. I could feel the heat of every gaze on us, but I wasn't speaking for them. This was between sisters. If you can do that, I finished softly, then yes, you may have the wedding of your dreams, in the venue you love. But it won't be on the back of cruelty anymore. It will be on respect. Amanda blinked rapidly, mascara smudging at the corners of her eyes. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then finally whispered, I'm sorry, Emily. Her voice cracked like glass. I shouldn't have said those things. I thought I was being funny. I didn't realize. You didn't realize it cut so deep, I supplied gently. She nodded, shoulders shaking. Yes. I didn't realize. A quiet exhale slipped from my chest. I wasn't here to destroy her. I was here to heal what had festered for too long. I reached out, brushing a tear from her cheek, like I had when we were kids. Then start now. Start with this wedding. Let it be about love, not spectacle. If you can do that, Amanda, then I'll unlock the doors for you myself. The entire room seemed to breathe again, the tension releasing in one long wave. My parents looked at me with something I hadn't seen in years, pride. Ryan gave me a small nod of respect. Amanda simply stared at me, fragile, broken, but maybe, just maybe, ready to grow. The weeks that followed felt surreal. For once, Amanda's texts weren't dripping with arrogance. Instead, they were hesitant, thoughtful. She asked my opinion on flower arrangements, on the seating chart, even on whether her vows sounded too rehearsed. It wasn't a complete transformation overnight. Old habits die hard. But there was a softness in her tone I hadn't heard since we were children. A willingness to listen, to lean, rather than to compete. The day of her wedding arrived with a crisp autumn breeze. I stood quietly in the back of the grand hall, the one she had once mocked me for not choosing, the one I now owned. The chandeliers sparkled overhead, the marble gleamed under soft golden light. But what struck me most wasn't the opulence, it was Amanda herself. She walked down the aisle with tears in her eyes, her hand trembling as it clutched Ryan's. And for the first time, her smile wasn't polished for show. It was real. After the ceremony, she found me by the fountain in the courtyard. Her veil fluttered in the wind as she whispered, "Thank you, Emily, for everything, for letting me have this, even after how I treated you." I touched the locket at my neck, the one my grandmother had pressed into my hand years ago. I opened it, showing Amanda the tiny photo once more. She told me something I never forgot, I said softly. Halls lose their shine. Flowers wilt. But what matters is how you carry your light. Amanda's eyes filled again, but this time it wasn't shame, it was understanding. Later that night, as I stood at the edge of the dance floor watching laughter and love fill the space, I finally felt the wound of her old words fade. It no longer mattered that she had once mocked me. What mattered was that I had turned pain into power, silence into strength, and bitterness into something far more enduring. I closed the locket with a quiet click and slipped it back against my heart. Because in the end, I didn't just buy my sister's wedding venue. I bought my freedom.